Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Perry. So Perry, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. My name's Perry Trevithick. I'm a fractional CFO and growth coach. So I'm blessed to be able to help clients multiply their profits and have more fun running their business. I live in Reston, Virginia, close to Dulles Airport.
Awesome. So what is a fractional CFO? Like, what exactly does that mean for people who don't know?
That's a good question. Most small companies, in my judgment, need somebody to help them, somebody with CFO skills. But clearly they can't afford a high quality CFO full time. So they hire people like me on a part-time basis. So I do some analysis and help create budgets and stuff, and then meet them a couple times a month to help. We create a plan on how to improve their business depending on the specifics, and then execute it. And like I said, they often multiply their profits and work fewer hours. So it's a blessing.
Right. But I guess for people who like are on the fence or might not really understand the benefits, I mean, I don't know if you can maybe share if you can share, case studies or examples or
Sure.
For people who are on the fence of like if even, would make sense for them.
Yeah, appreciate that. So many times, Dan, I see, and this is not everybody, but a lot of clients come to me when they're really strapped for cash and they spent a year or two running through their personal savings, and then a year or two racking up a lot of debt. And then now they're scared because they can barely meet payroll and maybe meet the mortgage payment. And so the first thing I do is to help them. First of all, we show them that there's a path out of here. So because if you're scared, you can't be strategic. And of course, we have to be strategic. So we put some things in place to manage cash and increase profitability. And then as the cash balances start to grow and we get all the accounting books cleaned up, which is often an issue too, now we have good numbers. And this is where I feel like my biggest strength is strategic planning and implementation. So I help the business owner figure out their mission, vision, values, beliefs, all those things, and create a strategic plan around that, and then build a culture around that, which is really key, the culture, and then implement the plan. So a lot of people are good at creating a plan, but usually it goes in the CEO's desk and doesn't get implemented, but we'll implement it. And then that's where the juice is, really. That's where you see things get easier and profits take off and your team gets excited because they're all working. They know what they need to do and they're all working the same direction.
So in terms of increasing profitability, I mean, do you typically see it more from the side of, especially from like your side, or from the CFO's, bird's eye view? Is it more so decreasing, certain expenses, or, raising prices, or a combination of both? Like, what do you kind of look at when it comes to increasing profitability?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my experience, and probably you as some of your clients, is most small companies are way behind in raising their prices. They've been afraid to raise their prices. And I say, I think you need to raise your prices 10 or maybe 20%. And they say, I'll lose clients. And I said, even if you lose 10% of business, you still will make more money because your variable cost goes down, your revenue stays the same. But I've never seen anybody lose more than 2 or 3% of their clients. And in fact, there's this old story I heard about a young CPA was struggling in his business, and he called an older gentleman to come in and look at his operation. And Friday at the end of the week, they both put their feet up, and the older guy says, "Double your prices." And the young guy said, "Oh my gosh, I'll lose half my clients." And the older guy just looked at him. Okay. And the problem is, so anyway, you have to keep your margins up. That's one of the main things is I help the client understand margin by product or service. And that's a real eye opener, because most people, a lot of times what they think is the most profitable product or service is not at all. And then there's things you can do to optimize pricing too. I won't get into that detail, but most people price based on their cost or what their competitors are doing, but there's a better way to do that. And then
For sure.
absolutely decreasing costs. The credit card processing fees, overhead usually too high. There's a lot of things we could do. And getting the team, in line with the strategy of the company, that really gooses profitability too.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that those things are super important, and I'm glad that you shared that, because just, to your point, I think that many founders, especially, early stage business owners, small business owners, that, when you're in a certain stage of the company, you're kind of heads down, right? You're not thinking about all these things. And I think it's it's good to say, okay, somebody like yourself can come in and really bring that kind of value.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think that's right. That's one of the things I talk to business owners about sometimes is, I need you to start shifting from working so much in the business to working on the business. And even
Exactly.
if you just tell everybody Friday afternoon, I'm not available because that's my working on the business time. You got to block time out, tell people, unless the building's on fire, don't, just let me work. And then that's your strategic time.
Right. And then, so I guess in terms of your background, right, like obviously, you kind of shared a bit about what you do and how you help folks, but how did you kind of get into this, line of work, being a CFO? Like, what is your background?
That's a good question. From the very start of my career, even my first assignment with the big company when I got out of college, it was a strategic planning type exercise. Why is our company not making as much? Why are we less profitable than our competitors? In fact, I thought I created a great Harvard Business Level Review report, and the controller who I reported to says, I can't take this upstairs to the executives. It makes them look bad. It's not about making anybody look bad. It's about better ideas. So, but anyway, so I've always been, my brain is wired to be strategic, and I am good at the nuts and bolts of accounting and finance, but served as, in fact, I got into controller and CFO not through the junior C accountant route, but through being a budgeting and financial planning and all that. And so, and then I've served as CFO for several years for a couple different companies, and I did finance transformation for a global consulting firm. That was good experience. And so a few years ago, I decided, there's a lot of small companies that need my help, and it'd be a fun way to make a living. And it's really been satisfying because like I've got one client for example, other stories, but he's my best example. Runs a little software company. His profits have gone up by a factor of sixfold since started working together a few years ago. But most importantly, he was working 80 hours a week, but now he works 20. And he's the father of 3 young children. And when you're working 80 hours a week, I mean, there's no energy for hardly anything else. And
Right.
so to me, that's the biggest impact on people's lives is that they don't be stressed about they're not so stressed about their business. They can spend more time with their family, and the business is a blessing instead of a curse.
Exactly. So, I mean, obviously that you work with folks and many different verticals, so I guess from that standpoint, how does that kind of differentiate in terms of like your scope of work when you're working with a different, one vertical versus like another? Because obviously every type of company is different. So I'm sure that, there's probably some things that are the same, but there are some differences. So how do you kind of factor those things into your day to day?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the first things I do is to start off with an assessment, about where they are in terms of keeping their accounting books clean or building a management team, so they can scale and eventually exit the business. So I've got several criteria that we talk about and kind of score those different areas. And then after that, one of the first things we do once the engagement starts is to go through what's called an order to cash analysis. You probably do that when you help your clients too,
Right.
once you get the order up to the point you collect the cash, let's go step by step through the processes. And I'm sure as you work with business owners, Dan, you see these business owners are smart people. They're passionate about what they do. They work hard. But I remember hearing somebody say one time, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. I
Right.
mean, the top people in any field have a coach and somebody who's experienced and can take a look and see things that you're just too close to see them.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
then I'm able to go through all this, and then I create from that a CFO roadmap of here's the things we need to tackle in this order, and then that's kind of the game plan.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that there's some similarity across different verticals because, yeah, I mean, it's it'd be challenging if every single thing was so different, but it's good that there's some similarity there. And then, right, like obviously you've been doing this for some time. So, every year is always focused on different things. And, now we're in 2025, we're still in Q1. So what are some of the biggest objectives that you have for your business?
Yeah, for my business personally is
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, my long-term goals or my legacy, if you will, that I want ultimately my business to serve 10,000 small business clients. And that's a big goal, but my plan is to build my business up and hire some other fractional CFOs. I have a bookkeeper that works with me. Sometimes the clients need bookkeeping help, but to hire
Right.
other fractional CFOs and kind of train them in what I do and learn from them too, of course, and just increase the impact.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, I think that like the more people you can help, the better. And that's kind of what we focus on in like a thing as well. It's, just continuing just to grow and to help as many people as possible. So I guess like on
Absolutely.
that note, right, you've been doing this for some time. If you could go back in time to before you started this business, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
Well, that's a good question. The biggest mistake I made, and I think that's probably not uncommon for somebody with my background, is that I would have educated myself more on marketing and sales, right? Obviously with my background, I'm good at delivering the services, but finding clients and being able to demonstrate value to bring the client on, that's something I wish I had understood how important it was. I would have saved a lot of money along the way.
Yeah, 100%. So if somebody watching this wanted to work with you, what's the best way for somebody to get in contact with you?
I appreciate that. Well, LinkedIn is a good way. I'm on Perry Trevithick. I think I'm the only person in the world with that name. So I'm on LinkedIn, or I give my phone number 254-313-3206, or email address. It's a long one. Perry at solvingtheprofitpuzzle.com. In fact, I have a website at solvingtheprofitpuzzle.com. So
Well, if somebody here is interested in working with Perry, you can give him a text, call, email him, go to his website, LinkedIn. He's available on many different channels. So, Perry, thank you so much for your time today. Of
thank you. I appreciate it. Been a pleasure to talk to you.
course.